To the X-Verse Monthly Podcast, a show all about the X-Men, the comics, the movies, the TV shows, but mostly the comics. This is episode 4, X books for the month of July 2017. We've got 13 books to talk about, and actually that's smaller than the number there should be. My apparently totally awesome Hulk is not a very popular book. This is the second time where my shop has sold out of that series, I think because they only order I guess they only order a few copies every month. So I've got to order issue 21 in order to get, I believe, part 4 of the Weapons of Mutant Destruction series that Greg Pak has been writing. So Totally Awesome Hulk 21, and then as a consequence, I think Weapon X, the latest issue of Weapon X is part 5, so I'm just not going to talk about those two issues this episode. We'll have to push them into the next episode, but otherwise, 13 books, not a bad number. So let's get started with the reviews. So let's start with the big one this month, Astonishing X-Men number 1, written by Charles Soule. And I'm sure I'm not alone in having some misgivings about Charles Soule taking over an X-Men title, particularly after his work on the Inhumans vs. X-Men event, which returned Emma Frost to her villainous roots. And I would argue a largely out of character move for her. So how does Charles do with this book? This first issue is actually pretty good. It's certainly better than I thought it was going to be. I kind of like the beginning. There's sort of a brief little exploration of kind of what it's like to be a psychic, to have that gift to read minds, and not only really read minds, but just sort of be inundated with the thoughts of everyone else around you, everyone in the world, depending, I guess, on how powerful you are. But it's a nice little intro, and then we move into kind of another series of introductions of each of the members of this team. But basically what's going on is Psylocke is attacked by the Shadow King. She's completely taken over by him, and just, I guess, kind of erupts in a sort of uncontrollable explosion of psychic energy. There's kind of a weird scene where she basically appears to manifest just a giant psychic butterfly, as she's done before, that's grasping the side of a large building and being attacked by helicopters, almost like King Kong style. So the X-Men, this team anyway, which is going to be Old Man Logan, let's see here, Gambit and Phantom X are hanging out together. I'm not really sure why. I don't know that they really share a whole lot in common other than the thief thing, but all right. Warren is called, and Bishop and Rogue, which, man, it's nice to see her back in an actual X-Men title. But so Betsy kind of calls out to them, more or less actually seizes them telepathically with a sort of psychic distress signal, I guess, and calls them to the scene where they go and kind of rescue her. Rogue ends up taking some of Psylocke's power to kind of absorb this psychic backlash here, and then Bishop takes it from Rogue and ejects it into the air. It's kind of an interesting sequence, kind of an interesting use of their powers. Whereupon Betsy tells them about this attack by the Shadow King, that apparently he's trying to round up a bunch of psychics to, I guess, force himself back into the real world. Interestingly, Beast shows up here. I'm not really sure why. I'm not actually even sure how exactly he shows up. Logan somehow finds him. I don't know. He just kind of walks out of a ship, and there he is. So this is interesting, and it's a little frustrating for me. So Beast's recent past has been just insane, and extraordinarily complicated. I don't understand him really as a character anymore. I mean, when we first see him kind of abandon Cyclops, as Cyclops is becoming somewhat of a more militant leader, and Beast has misgivings about that and bails out basically on the X-Men, and then he comes back when Wolverine establishes the Jean Grey school, and then he leaves again when the Terrigen Mist crisis happens, and decides to work with Medusa and the Inhumans to find out some sort of cure for Mpox, which he never finds. And then when it comes down to 0 hour, when push comes to shove, and the X-Men have to make a fucking decision about, do we eradicate this Terrigen Mist, or do we do the only other thing we can possibly do, which is leave planet Earth and try to find some other place that's habitable? Beast sides with let's leave the fucking planet. Let's leave everything we've built, and let's leave all of our homes, because God forbid, we try to fucking take care of this Terrigen Mist crisis, because it's inevitably gonna lead to a war with the Inhumans. It's just that it's such a terrible event, such a ridiculous conflict, and Beast has just been all over the map with this, and it seems to me like I hate to say it, but it seems like he makes the cowardly decision every single time he's confronted with an issue like this, particularly concerning the survival of the mutant race. So I don't know where his head's at. I don't know exactly why he's present in this issue. I mean, it's notable that Charles Soule is writing this, and he was obviously writing the Inhumans before this, and certainly had Beast in his wheelhouse for a long time. So maybe he'll be able to explain a little bit of Beast's motivations, and hopefully make him feel like a goddamn X-Man again, because it hasn't felt like that for a long time now. So we'll see where we go with Beast. Angel 2, I'm not sure what's going on here after Bunn's run on Uncanny. It was weird where Betsy was kind of controlling Archangel as like a drone, but then there was a separate Warren Worthington. I'm still not 100% on what was going on in that series, and now we've got Warren again, who's kind of in this weird in-between place with himself and Archangel, where it's Warren, looks like Warren, but he's sprouting the metal wings instead of the feathers, and that's about as far as he'll go into the Archangel persona, telling Bishop basically that he doesn't intend to ever let Archangel loose again because Archangel is so dangerous, essentially. So I don't know, maybe we'll get a little bit of clarity on where exactly Warren is too. I'm hoping to see. And then the big reveal with this issue. So Betsy sends pretty much all of them except for Bishop and Angel into the astral plane to go confront the Shadow King, who looks great in this issue, by the way. And the big reveal is the Shadow King opens up a sort of vault that he has surrounded by web in the astral plane, and inside the vault is a chained Charles Xavier. So I don't know if this is like a sort of a psychic ghost of Xavier after he died, or what. I'm sure we'll find out going forward here. But it's definitely an intriguing and overall a pretty well written issue, very well drawn issue too. So I'm excited to see where this series goes. I don't know if this is kind of maybe now Astonishing is supposed to be our flagship, or is it really supposed to be X-Men? It's hard not to consider Gold the flagship. I mean, that's where the team is, and that's where Kitty is, that's where the mansion is. Anyway, good issue. Charles, you didn't disappoint, and you didn't make this X fan overly angry anyway. So congratulations on that, and I'm excited to see where we go from here. Moving into our flagship books, X-Men Gold 7 and 8. So actually this is pretty nice. This is a fairly self-contained little arc here, a tie into the Secret Empire event, where we start out with the X-Men playing softball, Kitty and Colossus talking to each other on the bench as we see, I guess, this sort of dark force dimension dome enclose Manhattan, as the X-Men look on and witness, and then hear from Doctor Strange kind of what's going on here. I like the little scene between Rachel and Kurt. They exchange a little bit of a kiss here, and I don't know where Rachel is with respects to Kurt's feelings toward her, and Kurt kind of intentionally changes the subject, but it's a cute little scene between these two characters, before we get into the action of this particular issue, which of this arc, which concerns the new Executioner, who is somehow broken into the mansion and is going room to room and just assassinating mutants. It's kind of a fairly brutal issue, and the character that was rescued in X-Men Blue from when the O5 had encountered those mutant sentinels that Bastion was running, and they found that mutant among them, and took her in, and actually took her to the mansion. Well, she dies in this issue at the hands of the Executioner. It's kind of fucking brutal, but at the same time, I sort of appreciated that, like, X-Men Gold is here recognizing events that took place in X-Men Blue. It's kind of nice to see these books, sort of the interplay anyway between these two books. It's something I feel like we haven't seen in a long time, just that by itself. But Logan's outside fighting these Dark Force demons, and then the weird, I guess, the creature that was part of the new Brotherhood that they encountered, that I seemed like kind of an alien. He might be one of these demons. I don't know. The Executioner frees him, and he looks a lot like the demons in this issue. So I'm guessing that's kind of what's going on here. But anyway, they discover the new Executioner here, and discover that he's planted a bomb inside the mansion, which is sort of a weird. Like, that's sort of a weird plan. Like, you plant a bomb in the mansion, but then you still go inside the mansion and sort of execute these people one by one. It's just kind of strange. I don't really understand kind of the long term, the end point anyway. Like, is he gonna blow himself up too? I don't know. But so issue 8, we're still continuing to deal with the Executioner. There's kind of a nice sequence. I actually really like the panel sequence where Kitty is fighting the Executioner, who has just knocked Rachel out via some gas or something like that. Colossus has got Rachel in his arms. And then Rockslide tells Kitty via comms that there's a bomb in the mansion, and hey, can you come down here and phase through the electronics and screw this bomb up? So Kitty manages to fight off the Executioner, kick him away, grab Colossus and Rachel, phase through the ground into the next room, and then phase into the room where Rockslide is. It's just a cool sort of sequence of panels, and they find out that the bomb it's operated by some sort of goddamn ridiculous organic technology, and so it's not electronic, and Kitty can't phase through it. So she ends up going back and fighting off the Executioner, and they find out, I guess, that he's just some begrudged human who has an issue with the X-Men that is, I guess, similar to sort of what was going on in Civil War. That you guys are these big, superheroes, you fight like gods, and you don't care about any of the random destruction or the people that get hurt along the way. And his family died in probably one of these events of some kind. And so now, of course, his reaction to that is to just execute every fucking mutant on the planet, I guess. So... fine. Not a very interesting character. I don't even know his name. I'm not sure if it's even mentioned in this issue, but whatever. Pretty standard kind of revenge storyline. Anyway, they managed to fight off the Executioner. There's a reference here, a weird kind of random cut to Russia where the Hand is delivering the body of Omega Red to somebody. I'm not sure who this guy is. So we're gonna see Omega Red pretty soon here, which should be fun. And then the issue ends with a congressional staffer is how she describes herself. And she's giving an invitation to Kitty to come be interviewed and to discuss the recently proposed Mutant Deportation Act. So we'll see what that looks like here in the future. But overall, these two issues, I mean, pretty tight. The storyline itself with the Executioner, that whole sequence was pretty fun. And pretty brutal. This guy just kind of walking through the mansion, killing off mutants. I mean, it was actually pretty intense sequence there. So pretty fun. I think X-Men Gold is getting a little bit better every time with each issue. So I think I'm hoping it just kind of continues to get better and to get more comfortable with itself. I certainly like seeing the focus on Rachel here recently, and her kind of allowing herself to experience a little bit more of what her powers can do is definitely fun to see. So good stuff overall. Okay, on to X-Men Blue 7 and 8, also Secret Empire tie-ins. So the premise of these two is immediately more interesting to me than what they were doing over in X-Men Gold, because we're going to be dealing with New Shan, and we're going to be dealing with Emma Frost in particular. Overall, though, I'm not sure how I feel about these issues. So, the basic gist is the 05, the young X-Men, free a bunch of mutants from a prison, I guess. I don't know why they're in prison, but it's a prison on New Shan, and I guess they are not okay with the ruling order, which consists of Emma Frost, Zorn, Sebastian Shaw, and again, Beast. What is going on with Beast? So we see them at the capital, which is called Utopia, which I kind of like, that they've used Utopia to be the capital of a new mutant country, I guess. I don't understand, though. I think what's frustrating about this is that we've got a mutant occupied state here that's being ruled by mutants, but we don't really have a book that's focused on them. I don't understand how Beast is okay with this particular situation. I mean, it seems like New Shan is mostly going okay. But then, I mean, you've still got a lot of racial tension, like what we saw in Secret Empire United #1. So I'm just a little confused, I guess, as to what we're supposed to be making of the government, of Emma and Zorn and Sebastian Shaw as rulers here. I mean, it's weird to me that Beast is even working alongside Emma Frost, given that she was more or less she ended up being kind of the catalyst of the Inhumans versus X-Men war, in the sense that it had more or less resolved itself, and then she went all out and started attacking Inhumans, people that he'd been working with for the past, year or so. So maybe what's really frustrating me about this is that I don't know what the hell is going on with Beast at all anymore. But the gist of the issue is the 05 free these mutants from prison, and then the New Shan government decide to strike back at the 05 with their own group of mutants, which again, so we have Firestar, Mondo, Toad, Marrow, and Wolfsbane, and each of them bizarrely have what appears to be a kind of secondary mutation. Toad has a fucking flame tongue for some reason, and Wolfsbane, when she goes in full wolf mode, summons like a pack alongside her. So I don't know what's going. Maybe there's a little bit more to that than meets the eye. But again, with respect to the character stuff, why is Wolfsbane of all people on this team, and Firestar. I mean, those two by themselves are probably the least likely people to be on some sort of enforcement team for a government that's being run by people like Sebastian Shaw in particular, and Emma Frost given her recent turn. So it's hard to know what to make of this. And then we see that who's actually leading this group is Havoc, and I guess he's still inverted from whatever that asinine event was. I can't even remember it anymore. I can't even remember the name of that event where someone took a D&D chart basically and flipped it upside down. So if you were good, you're bad now. And that's more or less what's happened to Havoc. And I guess he's still in that mode. So his presence kind of makes sense here. So, all right. So frustrations regarding character motivations here aside, what is standing out in these two issues and what's kind of fun about them is Emma's fucked up relationship with young Cyclops. I don't know what to make of it. I think that it's like she's trying to rekindle what she had with Scott, with his fucking teenage self. And she's okay using telepathy and mind manipulation and all of that to kind of make that happen. So what's good about this is that it is at least further evidence that Emma's definitely not in her right mind, and hopefully, my God, hopefully we'll be able to come back from this at some point soon. That obviously the death of Cyclops did major damage to her psyche, and this is the result. But hopefully it's something that she'll be able to bounce back from. Because man, it is creepy and it is weird and it is awkward. But it is good at the same time. I mean, it is intriguing. The other big reveal here is that the Blackbird, which appears to be sentient, is revealed to actually be Danger. Yay, Danger, I guess. I've never been a big fan of Danger. So, I guess your mileage may vary with that one. It's sort of a lame reveal, I felt. But okay, so the Blackbird's Danger. I guess she can now turn into a ship and a whole bunch of other shit apparently. As we see in this issue, she's almost like Warlock in the New Mutants, but even more powerful, I guess. And then my favorite reveal of this issue, the last panel here with Polaris coming back, sent theoretically, I guess, by Magneto to rescue the O5, who have been captured by this point by Emma's team and are imprisoned. So we'll see where we go from here. It's fun to see Polaris come back and to face off against Havoc. So that should be a pretty fun fight, loaded with much drama, I hope. But man, God, I hope that we see Bun or somebody come back, or Soule in Astonishing, try to straighten out some of these characters a little bit, in particular Beast, which is going to be a fucking mammoth project to make him make sense anymore. But God, I would really love to see like a little bit more of the formation of New Shan. I'm sure we're not going to get any of this, but like how does Emma Frost come back from this, and how is Beast like, oh yeah, Emma, I remember when you executed a bunch of Inhumans and had no fucking reason to do that, so of course you should be here governing right alongside all of us. Or is everybody still sort of like under Emma's mind control? I don't know. I really hope someone takes on that job to maybe explain some of this a little bit more, because I don't like, it's okay when it's a few characters, but man, when it's this many and you're like, I don't understand what the fuck anybody's doing, it gets harder to read these books. I still enjoy it, definitely enjoying the weird Cyclops, Teen Cyclops and Emma dynamic, but come on, I don't know, a little bit more character work, I hope, in these next few issues. Okay, so moving on with, we're going to do Totally Awesome Hulk 20 and Weapon X number 5. This is parts 2 and 3 of the Weapons of Mutant Destruction storyline. Part 2 was actually the month of June. I'm doing it now since I only got it just recently. And then part 5, I guess it would be Totally Awesome Hulk, or I'm sorry, part 4, Totally Awesome Hulk 21. We'll have to wait until next month when I actually can get my hands on that book. So anyway, parts 2 and 3 of the WND storyline. I'm actually kind of enjoying this a lot because it's really by the numbers. You essentially have Amadeus Cho and Yuriko investigating one portion of this these new sort of adamantium crazy robot things that this new Weapon X facility is trying to put together. They're trying to find basically the next kid, the next subject for this for these tests, while Sabretooth and Wolverine are tracking down kind of the money side of it, and then intercut those two storylines basically with what's actually going on at the facility with these experiments. So it's kind of fun. It actually feels a little bit like a detective story as we're watching the Weapon X crew kind of solve this mystery and put it all together. And it's fun to follow it along. So basically, part 2 of this issue, Amadeus and Yuriko managed to find this kid Bobby, who has really responded to Reverend Stryker's anti-mutant messaging, and has decided to volunteer for this group to become a soldier in the fight against mutants. That's essentially the whole gist of issue 2 here. Into part 3 of this series. So here we get to see these goddamn scientists who are working on these projects. So it opens with a little kid finding like a dead mouse, and the two parents freaking out about it, and it turns out the mom who comes to her aid is one of the scientists for this Weapon X program. So like they're in this pristine sort of ideal suburb. Mom says bye to dad and child as dad walks the child along the sidewalk down to school. And then she goes into work where she's watching, basically she's part of her experiment is to have a bunch of fucking robot mice just tear apart this mutant in front of her and this other scientist. Just absolutely absurdly brutal for someone who apparently lives a fairly like not even just quotidian but like an ideal sort of home life. Anyway, we see that's how the issue starts with that little opening. We continue to see I forget, Domino and Warpath are tracking something else down. I'm not sure what it is. Another facility where there were a bunch of different a number of other robots being developed because they get into a big fucking fight with all of them, and that's fairly entertaining. Sabretooth and Wolverine managed to track down the guy who did the books for this particular project, and he sends them onto a new direction. But before they can get all the information from him that they were looking for, he dies. And the way he dies is, I guess, some sort of fucking everything is nanotechnology now. Some sort of nanotechnology explodes his throat or something. I don't know what. But he just dies, and it turns out this lady who we were introduced to in the first part of this issue developed that particular technology, and they show her its effects, and she's like, oh man, holy shit, like that's crazy and like kind of scarring. And you're like, what do you, I mean, what the fuck did you expect with this kind of technology? And because of her success, I guess, she's sent up upstairs, I guess, to Department H, which is, I mean, that's where all the big stuff is going on. VAT H. And so she's sent up there to meet with the lead scientist there, Dr. Alba, who's kind of heading this whole project. And I'm assuming it's because of her hesitation regarding the throat exploding nanotechnology that she is then just knocked out by Dr. Alba, and then volunteered to I'm assuming become another experiment. And it's like I said this during this storyline, these goddamn scientists are like they're almost to me the most interesting part of this series, because what do they expect? Like, what do you expect if someone says, hey, can you develop some nanotechnology that'll blows up throats? Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's weird. Why would you need that? But yeah, no problem. And I guess like in the morning you come into work, the first fucking thing you do is watch a bunch of robot mice tear apart a fucking mutant. Like, what kind of people are these? And then you go home to your husband and your kid, and I guess you just watch American Idol at night or whatever the fuck, and then you wake up the next day and do it again. It's just weird. The scientists in my mind are kind of the most fascinating part of this series, because I don't understand, like, why they're scientists. What are they being paid? I mean, they must be making so much money to risk their lives, or they're just so bad at science. I don't know, that like they can't get a real job somewhere else. And they have to go to this job where we tear mutants apart and fucking end up as science experiments yourself. I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, that's Weapons of Mutant Destruction. It's fun. That's parts 2 and 3 anyway. It is pretty fun. And Greg Pak, I mean, no shit, is, I think, doing a great job with the dynamic of this team. All of these characters are really fun, and it's really fun to see them interact with each other. So this has been a really tight script, a really tight plot line, with a lot of fun interaction. And I actually do really like Amadeus Cho kind of in the middle of this, especially him hanging out with Yuriko is a lot of fun to see. So yeah, I'd still highly recommend this series. I'm surprised I like this series as much as I do, but definitely recommend it. Okay, so let's go to Jean Grey number 4. We're still continuing, I guess, this story where Jean it's kind of like she's basically just going around seeking advice for how to deal with the coming Phoenix Force. So this issue, she's scaling a big mountain in the middle of winter to go talk to Thor, who is apparently at a bar on top. It's weird. You always wonder, like, when you see characters like Jean Grey, why are you climbing a mountain? Why don't you just, fucking telekinesis yourself up it? I mean, yes, that would be less interesting, but I don't know. Maybe it takes a lot out of her. I don't really know. So she gets up to the top of this mountain, meets with Thor, who's getting drunk in a bar. Prior to getting there, she actually sees a group of, I don't know, fucking beast men. I don't know what they are. Orcs, basically. Basically fucking orcs, who are also hiking up this mountain to go attack and try to kill Thor. So he's busy getting drunk in a bar, more or less by himself, it looks like. Jean comes and tries to warn him about what's going on here, and he doesn't give a shit. He's pretty much expecting it anyway. So they get into a big fight with these orcs. Of course, they manage to take them all out. And Jean kind of learns to focus a little bit more of her, I guess, her telekinetic power, almost like Quentin does, and what Betsy was doing for a while too, where they're manifesting these kind of psychic weapons, where Quentin a lot of times will manifest a gun for some reason, and Jean had manifested kind of a giant, almost like a Mjolnir, the hammer, the fucking Thor's hammer, Mjolnir. That's how you say it, Mjolnir. She manifests something that looks like that in her big fight with the orcs here, and kind of learns from Thor basically to just keep fighting. I guess that's this issue. It's okay, it's all right. I'm kind of hoping we get past this Phoenix Force thing sooner rather than later, because again, I mean, it's just a little cliche for Jean to be dealing with this, and she's a more interesting character than just the Phoenix, just her relationship with the Phoenix. So certainly not a bad issue. I was entertained by it well enough, but I'm hoping we explore some richer territory after we get past this story arc. Okay, on to Iceman number 3. So this series continues to kind of surprise me. I really am just sort of taken aback by how much I'm actually enjoying it. This is a pretty simple issue where Bobby's gonna go have dinner with his parents and probably have the the gay talk with them, I'm assuming, but then gets bogged down basically in how little they want to hear about his life as a mutant and all the ridiculous, absurd adventures that he gets in as a mutant, and he feels like they're basically just shutting him up, and that he's only got so much that he can actually talk about with them. He's just feeling kind of boxed in. So that's the beginning of the issue, and then of course a purifier shows up. Man, we're just getting one purifier after another in this series, but at least this guy thinks maybe he should bring some people along with him, and he does. He's got like 12 other purifiers there that have decided to take Bobby's family hostage as they decide, I guess, what they want to do with Bobby. It's mostly just a bunch of like fucking evil asshole speechifying. That's really all they ever seem to engage in. And Bobby, of course, takes them out rather easily. And I actually like the scene where Bobby is coming up on sort of the lead purifier guy and kind of demonstrating his skill with his power set. So not only with that, one of the best issues in X-Men when Emma takes over his body and does all this stuff that he had no idea that he could do, but then also in the Battle of the Atom crossover where he meets himself, or his future self, who's become some sort of weird Gandalf looking ice wizard. I have no idea, but who can manifest like other Icemen, other like almost seemingly conscious ice entities that will do his bidding more or less. But he's talking about that, basically about what he will become, like what he can become, and what his powers are capable of, and introducing this guy to just a sort of glimpse of what he can do. How practically invincible basically Bobby Drake is as a mutant, and his choice to hold back on everything that he can do, is like, as badly as he wants to kill this guy, he's not going to do it. And that's the thing. That's just, again, one of those things that's making Iceman kind of an interesting character, because he's not like, it's not like what we see with Rachel, right, in X-Men Gold, where she too has all of this fucking power that she's terrified to embrace because of what she's done with it, because of what she's done basically in her past or their future, however you want to think of that, when she was a hound, when she was hunting mutants, basically, in the sort of Days of Future Past style timeline, or Age of Apocalypse. I don't remember what. But anyway, she's kind of terrified of the scope of her powers, where Iceman isn't. And this is something that's so unique to Bobby, and I feel like what has made Bobby sort of a more interesting character just in general, what's made him kind of stand out, is that he can confront these huge things, like the fact that he has all this power but isn't afraid of it, is just, he seems to still be able to control it. Like the fact that he could like kill people pretty easily, that he could assert his will on other people really easily, doesn't scare him. He just seems to be sure of himself. He seems to know clearly kind of the difference between right and wrong, and to have a command of that. So not only the ability to kind of deal with the scale of his own powers, but then the fact as well that his teenage self is in the present timeline and has come out as homosexual, and now he's got to deal with that as an adult who's kept that side of him hidden for decades now. That he's not in crisis mode over that kind of stuff. That Bobby doesn't dovetail into intense drama, I guess, is really what I'm saying, when he's confronted with these kind of large issues. And that's sort of what's made him pretty fun as a character. So God, I mean, geez, just 3 issues in, and already I feel like we have so much stuff to say about Bobby as a character here. So this, I really like this series for what it's doing for Bobby Drake as a character. God, one of the fucking oldest X-Men characters in the entire history of the franchise. I mean, one of the founding members, and now with his own solo, and still there's more to explore with this character, and that's good writing at the end of the day. So this is a fantastic series, definitely one of the best series I think in the franchise right now, one of the best written. So highly recommend this. Okay, into Cable number 3, the Oh My Goodness, we finally have some story issue of Cable. So Cable meets up with, first he fights magically winged Mayan people, and summarily defeats them, and encounters a Mayan priest who takes him into high-tech Mayan ancient civilization that has a big like computerized calendar or whatever, and introduces Cable to basically what's going on. This is a shitload of exposition in this episode or this issue. So we find out that the man that Cable is chasing, his name is Conquest, and he's looking for the pieces of the Sword of Time. I don't know what that is, but it has something to do apparently with the Inhumans versus Eternals war, which the Mayan priest calls Eternenhuma. I kind of like that. War of Eternenhuma. I don't know. It sounds kind of sweet. But the Eternals Inhumans war. I don't know what this is. I don't know if this is canon. I tried to look for it actually briefly on the internet and didn't find anything useful. But there's a Sword of Time, has something to do with the Eternals Inhumans war. I don't know what any of that means. Basically the next step after discovering that is Cable's got to fight his way up to the top of this Mayan temple to continue chasing after this guy Conquest. Transports now to sometime early 1900s Russia, and is about to confront Conquest face to face. Conquest takes him out, but I'm sure Cable's going to get right back up in panel 1 of the next issue. And we'll see what happens from there. So we've at least got kind of a plot line now going, and I'm a little curious to know what the Eternals Inhumans war is about. I liked, because what's interesting about that is that they're both offshoots of the human race. The Eternals, I mean, and the Inhumans as well, but the Eternals I know that was Jack Kirby all the way back in the 60s, I think, who did that series, and it's weird, sort of, it has to do with the Celestials as well, but I always liked that stuff. Was always kind of intriguing to me, the sort of hidden races in the Marvel universe, the offshoots of the human race. So we'll see where that goes. I have no idea if the Eternals Inhumans war actually is anything, or if maybe this is something new that James Robinson is building up here, but definitely a promising direction for this series, and I continue to have, despite how light it's been on plot, this issue is definitely a step in the right direction, and James Robinson, you can usually trust him to tell a good story, so definitely curious to see where this goes from here. Better than the first 2 issues for sure. So yeah, we'll see where we go. And moving into Generation X number 4. I think you guys know by now, probably my favorite book of the franchise so far. So we pick up where the last issue left off, where the team is going to go into the tunnels, I guess, under Central Park to find out who or what attacked Face. I really like part of in the beginning of this issue. I really like this scene between Jubilee and Danny. Just hanging out, I guess, in a lounge somewhere and talking about just talking about the kids in general. And Jubilee's kind of like talking about how she feels, maybe they're starting to come around a little bit with her, that they've been like really good, and that when she was their age, by now, if she had left them, or if she had been left kind of unsupervised for this amount of time, she definitely would have found a way to sneak out by this point. And what's great about this conversation is that that's definitely true for Jubilee as a character, and it's absolutely something that would resonate with Danny as well, with her time as the New Mutants. This kind of the kids sneaking out to go do their own mission is such a classic X-Men tale. that every single class has at one time gotten into, or at one time or another, has been involved in. So of course, as she's saying this, she begins to realize, holy shit, I should probably go check on them. And she and Danny go to basically their quarters and find that of course they're fucking gone. So I really enjoy that. I like seeing Jubilee now have to confront, as a mentor, as a teacher, the kind of shit that she pulled when she was a kid in the Xavier Academy. I mean, that's just, it's fun to see. I just think it's so rewarding because, you know, this is a character that I remember when Jubilee was first introduced. I remember her certainly all throughout the 90s, and then definitely with her time on Generation X. And now to see her in the mentor type role, it's fun to see. It's just fun to see now she's having to see like what it's like to deal with the kids from the point of view of an adult. It's just, you know, it's rewarding, and this is what reading stuff like this is what makes you feel like these characters are growing, and that they're changing and that they're experiencing new things, and that's what's exciting. And that's, God, I just feel like the X-Men, this franchise in particular, has so much room for that kind of work, to see characters grow and evolve like this. That's what's so exciting about these books. So anyway, the kids are in the tunnels. They find out it's Monet who attacked Face, and is attacking other mutants. She's, I guess, totally fucking lost the battle with M-Plate, her brother, who has possessed her and who basically feeds on mutants, more or less. I've never really been totally clear on what M-Plate is. Is he like a psychic entity or what? But anyway, he's definitely possessed Monet at this point. And has her just fully under his control. So Jubilee and she's kind of taken out. She's taken these students down one by one when Jubilee, Chamber, and Pixie show up to kind of save the day, rescue the kids, and bring them back to the mansion. And Jubilee's pissed because it's Monet, and is ready to go kick her ass. So a fun issue. I really like this series so much. I like these characters. I love the interplay between these characters. I think seeing Jubilee and Chamber teach the kids, both Generation X alumni, is great. It's just fantastic to watch it, to see it from this perspective. I mean, I remember again when Chamber was a brand new character, when he was introduced during that, I guess it was the Phalanx Covenant storyline, and that then sort of led into Generation X back in the 90s. So to see them as teachers again, I mean, this is just, it's fun, and this is, it's fun, it's growth, it's cool to see them becoming adults, and having to take on the responsibility of guiding the next generation of mutants into the future. So great series, absolutely fantastic series, and excited to get issue 5 when it comes out. Okay, all new Wolverine number 22. We are on the other side of that storyline, whatever, quarantine. I don't remember the name of the storyline, but basically where that entire island was infected with some alien virus, and Laura and a bunch of other Wolverine people managed to heal the island with their healing factors. So I don't know if you want to say we're on the other side of that story. This is part 2, more or less. But Laura's recovering after having been basically depleted, curing this virus. I like the way this scene opens up with Gabby and Deadpool becoming like forming this intense kind of friendship right away with each other. It's pretty great, and it definitely makes a lot of sense. So now we're moving into, Laura's gonna go basically find out where the hell this alien kid came from and why this alien kid knows who she is. And I guess to get her there, Shield's gonna employ the aid of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Great. I'm not super excited about the Guardians of the Galaxy. They're fine. So Laura, Gabby, and Jonathan, the actual Wolverine, board the Guardians of the Galaxy ship and go off to this planet where they find like basically what appears to be a sort of giant enclosed city on a moon, I guess. And before they can really make any headway with the residents of this city, who also seem to know, I guess, who Laura is, that they had, I guess, sent this alien to go get Laura, and they're surprised that it was a success. And but anyway, before we can actually get into any sort of detail regarding that, everybody is immediately attacked by the Brood, and then sadly, scarily, Gabby is taken off by the Brood. Laura's unable to rescue her, and that's where the issue ends. Promising start for sure for a new arc in All New Wolverine. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Gabby. I think she's way too popular. Like at the beginning, when these clones of X-23 were first introduced in this series back in, I mean, it was around like issue 1 or 2 when we first saw Gabby, I think, for the first time. I was so down on it. So like a clone of a fucking clone of Wolverine. My God, we don't need any more. But in the 20-something issues since then, Gabby has definitely grown on me as a character. So I do not want to see her consumed by the fucking Brood of all things. I'm hoping that she sticks around for a long time. I cannot. God damn it, I can't believe I'm saying that. It just goes to show you how insanely goddamn biased I am toward the X-Men as characters. They're just, I love them so much. You can make a fucking 100 clones of them, and I'll love the goddamn clones as well. So hopefully Gabby's okay. I'm sure we'll find out next issue. All right, last issue, you guys. Old Man Logan number 26, Days of Anger part 2. So Old Man Logan dealing with the fact that the Hulk gang is in the 616. We get a little bit more exposure to the Hulk gang, kind of what's going on. They've taken over. They're taking over a couple of different facilities, I guess, just securing weapons. Basically, they want to build, it sounds like, a fucking sanctuary for themselves, where they won't be like hunted and hated and hounded or whatever other H word you want to use there. And Logan's just chasing them down. So again, not really a whole lot going on. I mean, it's real light on plot, where Logan's just chasing down the Hulk gang, and I guess trying to stop them or take them out or kill them or whatever. And in this issue, Logan just gets fucking obliterated. They know he's coming, and they've got a plan to kind of take him down. So he gets run over, he gets shot to shit, and he's pretty much down and out for the count. Where the Hulk gang then have their brother, and I can't remember his name. But he's kind of the pussy Hulk, I guess, in the crew, and they have him go up to I guess try to execute Wolverine right then and there, and instead of actually doing that, they just light his ass up as well, so that he's laying there next to Logan, I guess dead or dying. That's all that's going on here. I'm still, and the same attitude toward this issue that I had toward the last issue. I'm not that interested in the Hulk gang, and honestly, Old Man Logan's past is less interesting to me than what he could be doing here in the future, I guess, or what. I don't know, just the Hulk gang. I know he's from the Wastelands. I know his family was killed by the Hulk gang. I know he was buddies with Old Man Hawkeye. I just feel like we've had it. I just don't think there's a lot left to mine in that territory. I don't think there's a lot left in there. And so to see him having to deal with the Hulk gang here in the 616, it feels a little bit forced. And it's just kind of given him, it's just another sort of revenge storyline. I don't know. It's okay. It's okay. Bresson's doing all right. I gotta say, Lemire's work on this title was a lot better, though, a lot more engaging. Maybe when we get past this Hulk gang storyline, we'll see something new that and a little bit more interesting. But the constant kind of retreads of his past, I just think they've been done to death. And particularly this storyline following on the heels of Lemire's past life storyline, where Logan was basically being magically transported to a bunch of different fucking periods of his past. I mean, again, maybe it's just that the sort of one after the other nature of this, that again, in this story with a new writer, we still got old man Logan dealing with his past here. So, it's entertaining enough. But I'm certainly hoping that with the next arc, maybe we break a little new ground here. All right, you guys, that'll do it for this episode. 13 X-Men related comic books. Would have been 15 had I gotten that issue of Totally Awesome Hulk. But we'll just have to shove that into next month. Thank you all for listening. If you enjoyed what you heard, and even if you didn't, hit that like button below, and leave a comment. I'm always curious what people think overall of the Resurrection titles. I mean, it's just a fucking bonanza of X-Men books now. So, certainly some things are gonna hit and others are gonna miss. But overall, I gotta say I'm still pretty high on this. I think the franchise is in better shape than it's been in quite a while. And the proof of that is books like Iceman, and books like Generation X. These smaller books, these books with a kind of a smaller focus, that have the opportunity to explore some characters, and create some relationships, and some team dynamics. That stuff is always really fun to see. And that's what attracts me to the X-Men more, almost more than anything else. And I'm sure that's true for a lot of fans as well. But if you disagree, I'd love to hear that as well. So anyway, that'll do it for this episode. Again, please check out the Wednesday Night Gentlemen Multimedia Empire official podcast, our bigger brother, and still likely the more coherent production. Thanks, and see you next month.